Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast channel. My name is Jed and we are in the Philosophical Midwifery book. We are learning about the skill and art of how to discover, understand, remove, and therefore free ourselves from human problems. Hooray! Hooray. So, last time we jumped into Plato's Republic, which describes a conversation that Socrates had about the nature of justice. But justice is also a virtue. In discussing the virtue of justice, Socrates also had to discuss the other three virtues: keeping your cool or temperance, courage, and wisdom. And we were super curious about wisdom because the word philosophy means the love of wisdom. What exactly is wisdom? So last time we jumped into book 4 to have a look at how he describes wisdom. But one of the reasons we were curious about wisdom also was we have also been looking at the book 6 of the Republic, where he describes the different cognitive functions. And that's what we're interested in as midwives, as people who can help deliver people from the fundamental cause of their repeating cycles of problems, repeating cycles of negative states of mind, repeating cycles of inappropriate actions that sabotage them from reaching their highest goals, or prevent them from acknowledging, valuing, maintaining, and building on their highest goals if they achieve them. There are several ways of blocking ourselves, and that includes, after you have an insight, do you diminish it or do you not maintain it? And that was super interesting because one of the descriptions of wisdom is something that can preserve a certain state of mind and kind of functioning. A really neat one too. So we were curious about wisdom because we jumped into book 6, which describes the kinds of cognitive functions, the kinds of ways human beings can make sense of their world, the faculties through which we can grasp things. Some people go to school and try and make sense of the world or themselves through scientific beliefs, but some people try and make sense of the world through prejudices. That's two different sorts of things. Some people are just moved by shapes and colors. And we're interested in that because we have been seeing that the human quest, the reason we're here, and the spiritual quest, the activity that gives rise of different perceptions of reality, including a non-physical or spiritual realm, the quest of learning, and also our evolutionary next stage is the movement from one kind of cognitive function to another. Isn't that interesting? Cheer, kids. Chipmunks, I mean. All of the chipmunks are happy about that. Oops, that's not what I meant to press. Forget about that. So, it's a movement from a kind of way of making sense of the world through beliefs into understanding. So we wanted to understand exactly what understanding is, and if we can get a picture to represent that movement. That picture is the divided line. We learned a few extra things that not only, that divide between understanding, dianoia, on the right, and belief on the left represents levels, have different capacities to, sorry, let me say that again. Can perceive different realms. One is the intelligible realm, non-physical, the realm of being. And on belief, you can have beliefs about the physical world that you see through your sense perceptions. We also saw that as we move from belief to understanding, or lesser to greater, we participate more in clarity and truth, which is interesting. We also saw that beliefs cause a kind of thinking that we call shapes and colors, but more generally speaking, what Socrates calls the lowest kind of thinking, image thinking. The image thinking is caused by beliefs that we carry. Not only that, those beliefs are also the end. So if we think in that kind of a way, we'll end up back at the origin belief that we began with. So it's cyclical, or it's stagnant. We carry a false belief from childhood that causes our way of thinking, that ends up in us reliving the implications of that belief over and over again, and confirming that belief we began with. I guess I was rubbish all along. I guess I was right about myself. So it ends up in the same false belief we began with. But so that's interesting for our work in midwifery, because we want to help people understand where they're stuck and why they're stuck and why they can't progress. Why people are just repeating the same programming, negative programming, and they can't learn, they can't participate in intelligence, they can't participate in reason, and therefore they can't participate in goodness or benefiting. So they end up harming themselves, harming anybody else over and over again. But interestingly, in the exact same way that matches the way they were harmed when they first picked up the belief. It's the cause of our projections, because if we move from obscurity to clarity, we're not clearly seeing the world. So we project the same beliefs onto others. And instead of addressing the injustice we suffered when we got that belief through philosophical midwifery, we project that problem onto others and get mad at them. And then ironically and tragically, respond to that, not through understanding. Again, we're not in understanding yet, but through the same kind of cruelty and harm that they were addressed with, that we were addressed with. So we project our problems onto others, and then we respond to it negatively, which is the same thing that caused our problem to begin with, because it's bad to harm people. Doesn't solve anything, doesn't help people learn or grow or understand. So the very thing that they are pissed off about is the very thing they are doing themselves, as they project onto others. And they project because they can't see clearly. And if you're projecting onto the present, what you are seeing must come from somewhere else. It can't come from the future, because you haven't seen the future yet. It must therefore be something we are carrying from our past that we project onto the present, which is our koan, or spiritual question or puzzle we are here to solve. But instead of learning how to solve it properly, we just get mad at the injustice of it and respond in the same very injustice that we were mad about. So it's an absurd thing, or ironic, or tragic. Now, there is a kind of art or charm or grace in being able to point out the irony, the tragic irony, the absurdity in a funny way, to help people see the absurdity of the pattern they're in, They're doing the same thing that they caused their problem to begin with. The very thing they're angry about, they are inflicting on others. If they're projecting, it must be something they're carrying themselves. So instead of getting mad at the person you're projecting on and suing them or attacking them or threatening them or genociding them, that makes no sense. That's silly. How about reflect on yourself and what it is you are carrying that you are dumping on them to begin with? So that's the use of humor and charm, so long as there is a way out. So a comedic character has a problem he can't see, but somehow bumbles through and gets out of it somehow without having learned anything. That's a comedy. A tragedy is the very thing that's causing their tragic blind spot, that causes this tragic irony. They don't see, and they suffer the tragic implications of that tragic flaw. So tragic is used a lot of ways to understand tragedies. They don't see the problem and they suffer the tragic result. Now we can add a third kind, maybe the philosophical kind, where we have a way of seeing that tragic flaw, that blind spot, the cause of our blind spots we've been learning as the pathologos, and we're able to get out of it, having learnt something new and grown and evolved, leveled up. To a third class of drama. Now, if there is a way of addressing problems, then it's no longer a tragedy. It's no longer an injustice. So the fun or the comedy that can be had in pointing out the problem isn't cruelty or sadism. Oh, look at the problem you're in and you're going to die and because of it, and it's going to cause all this misery in your life. Ha 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 ha. No, that's sad. That's fascism. That cruelty is a mark of the pathologos and groups identified with their pathologos, like Nazis and right-wingers and fascism, people who think that inflicting suffering on others is a mark of knowingness. That's cruel. That's not comedy. That's why the right wing don't have any jokes. They're not funny. So in comedy shows, no one's laughing. They're just clapping in agreement. Yes, I agree with that fascist statement. But pointing out the absurdity while also offering a way out, or demonstrating a way of being, a new way of being, that's where the fun can be had. So there is a reason why MAGA took off, why Trump, not a Christian, was able to round up all the Christians and say, hey, join me with this completely non-Christian way of being, where I'm going to take all your money, I'm going to make life terrible for you, I'm going to make you build concentration camps, I'm going to send you to them, I'm going to harm you in every possible way, I'm going to use your taxes to genocide children in Palestine. I'm going to be the most unjust person. But somehow they're like, yes, I'm in for that. What did he offer? A way of being. A way of being where the most blocked and ignorant people finally have a way of voicing what they think is knowingness, and also a way of voicing what's important to them. Are you allowed to ask questions in Christianity? Nope. Are you allowed to speak up in Christianity? Nope. There's one person speaking, and he's the guy in the big hat at the front who gets all the money. But now, all the Christians have a way of speaking. All we got to do is wear a red hat, and we get to voice all of our fears and concerns, so long as it's all projected on our agreed target. We all agreed. We all agree this person is going to be the sacrificial lamb. We're going to dump all our shit on this lamb and then burn it, right? Just like Jesus. Didn't he take all the burdens of all their sins, so they say, and then everyone gets to beat the shit out of him and he dies and then everyone wins? So we need to offer another way of being through which people can voice what they're most concerned about, what they're most interested in. And that's super, super important, because the very issues, confusion, problems that we have are our koan. We don't need a spiritual koan from some Eastern guru. What is the sound of one hand clapping? Screw you. Why do I have my problems? That's what I'm interested in. If a tree falls in a forest, does it make a sound? Yeah, well, if I'm not able to reach my goals every day, then does that make a sound? We don't have to pretend. But also we need to put logos, words. We need a way of talking about what's most interesting. Otherwise, we'll just suffer the injustice internally, causing all of the problems that result. And we never learn. Which again is why immediately, no punishment, no blame, no guilt, not ever. Why? Because if you say the wrong thing, and that's an excuse for some dickhead to punish you, that's fucking terrible. We need to be able to make mistakes to learn. We need to be able to voice our concerns, especially our problems or our ignorance, what we're wrong about, where we're not wrong, missing the mark on, so that we can adjust our aim. And a society that believes in any sort of punishment for missing the mark is a society that is oppressing the very thing we're here to do as people. We need a way of voicing ourselves. We need a way of being where we can reflect on what's most interesting, what's most meaningful, especially our problems or where we miss the mark, especially where we miss the mark over and over again, so we can put words on it, voice our life. And if we can put words on those things, what we're most interested in our highest sense, and what we're most struggling with, if we can put words on those, and we have the space and encouragement to reflect on those words, we can piece those words together to solve the puzzle we are here to solve. And it's a kind of a puzzle that is A, solvable, but B, when you do solve it, it benefits your whole soul. You are now free from the burden of that problem. Or it awakens you to a higher sense of clarity or a higher perception of truth about reality and self. So it either frees us from what has kept us in ignorance, or it awakens us to a higher state of being. If we can solve those problems, and you can only solve those problems if you have a way of being where you are encouraged to put words on what you are most interested in and your problems, what you're most angry about, what you're most frustrated by, and what you're most curious about. Not the way that Maga says, well, I'm really curious about homosexuality. So my way of being is to project it onto someone with hate and then punish them for it. Oh, all the gays are the devil. Oh, we should all burn them. Right? No. Be honest about what you're curious about. You're interested in sexuality. Of course, we all are. What part of being human is. But how about a way of being where you're encouraged to reflect on what's most significant, interesting, curious, or what you're most angry about or struggling with or confused about? So that, and also given the space to reflect on it, not in that way. It's not any sort of reflection, because otherwise you'll reflect on it in the way that you were taught from the people who gave you those first beliefs that caused the problem to begin with. If it's just hate on hate, then you're reflecting on your problems through hate. You're just going to bolster your hate. So a kind of directed, guided use of your of self-reflection. A directed, guided way of putting words. Certain words are more accurate than others. So there needs to be an art to guide someone how to most accurately see and define things. And then, again, a guided direction on how to put the pieces together so you're not jamming in puzzle pieces that don't fit and then you end up with a picture of some crazy deformed monster. No, put the pieces in the right places and you have a beautiful puppy dog. Because that was the puzzle. It's a metaphor. So, a way of being where you are encouraged and supported and given time, no shot clocks, no voting off with flags. No. It's a long period of reflection where you're encouraged to talk about what's most significant, where you're encouraged to put words on it, and you're guided in how to put the right words onto it, more accurate words on it, the self words on it, self logos. And you're directed on how to piece it together, dialectic, which can facilitate new understanding and insight. Which frees you from a negative, limited way of being, the absurd one, the one that we can make fun of, and allows you to use that freedom to learn a new way of being. What kind of way of being would it be? Would you agree? A way of being that encourages reflection on what's most important or what's most puzzling? A way of being that encourages a kind of accurate understanding or naming, putting words on those things? A way of being that encourages people to reflect on, puzzle about, and put the pieces together? A way of being that then encourages people to go out and seek their most meaningful goals with excellence, to see if that understanding, that hypothesis, that puzzle solved works. Not just belief, but actually testing if your understanding actually works. In experience to gain knowledge. A way of being that then encourages people to reflect on what they've been through, to learn about this very art and way of being, to see the value in this way of being. A way of being that encourages to put all of them together and turn around and help others through that process. So it's a win-win. And then it can be passed on to others, so it can be
it's a win-win-win-win-win.
A win-win-win-win-win-win-win. Wouldn't that be the way of being that we would all benefit from universally? No matter what color you are or what race you are or what gender you are. If you have logos, language, and the capacity to reflect on yourself, logos and ousia, then wouldn't that be the use of such things to benefit? Therefore, if it's both universal and beneficial, is it a principle? If it's a way of being that is a principle, universal, beneficial, true principle for all beings at this level of evolution, can it be a single way of being that we can function through at all times in whatever we do? So not spreading hate part of the time and doing this other part, but as a way of being. If it's a way of being, is it a constant state? A constant disposition that makes use of things like charm and fun and humor because it's a way of leading into this new way of being? If it's therefore a principle for all beings that's universal and beneficial, as a single way of being, can it be what we build our policies on in our world, in any group we're in any society we're in any planet we're on, in any time we find ourselves, on any galaxy we find ourselves on, in this life and beyond? Therefore, can we conclude, if it's something that's true forever and for everyone, whenever and wherever, could it be what we're here to learn, considering we know that we can't be in this life for more than 100 years? We're going somewhere else after. And if this is the kind of learning and nurture we can take with us, this way of being, is it not only that which we can unify within ourselves, unify within our species, but also what we're here to do? These are the questions we've been collecting as we read through this process. And therefore, while it's important to understand the cause of problems and even make fun of it to have a bit of fun and also point out the absurdity of what follows in those negative ways of being, we must also be defining and demonstrating in all ways division another way of being that we can therefore invite others to turn around and reflect on. Offering a new way of being that people can express themselves in the way that's offered by Nazism, that's offered by MAGA. And hasn't this been the criticism of the progressives or the left? They're not doing anything. They don't have a way of being. It's just fascism light. There is no truth. Anything is anything. Hey, whatever you want. Well, hang on, fuck that. How about there is a way of being that's good? How about there is a difference between good things and bad things? And would this be it? And is that the significance of what we've been learning here in philosophical midwifery? This kind of new paradigm of a way of being. Is it important to recognize all of those things, politically, socially, for our species, but most importantly for ourselves? And why we're here, and how we can unify our own soul according to a single way of being at all times? In order to create genuinely good, beneficial, and loving relationships with the people we care about, especially ourselves? Is that the stakes? Is this the importance? That we need to see and acknowledge for us to have the motivation to learn something new? Have a reason to sacrifice the old MAGA way of being or our old pathologos way of being? To do something new? Hey, it can be scary to be empty because you don't know. But also it can be scary to learn something new. Is it worth it considering that's the stakes? How does that emptiness and curiosity relate to the idea of virtue talked about in the Meno? Aporia. How does having a single way of being that we can use as our benchmark relate to what we read last time for justice? How does everything involved in that process we've been learning? And how to reflect in that kind of way, putting that kind of words to see and define the certain causes of our problems as false beliefs. Understand the stakes and the significance, but also understand how to address them according to actual truth, actual justice, actual beauty, to free ourselves from that prison of ignorance, free ourselves from inevitable fate as we play out the same stuff over and over again, that our future is fated? How does all that relate to the virtue of wisdom that we looked at last time? How does the freedom from that relate to our question about, well, if that's not what's true, if that's not what's beautiful and just, what is? And how do we understand it? And once again, verify our understanding in direct experience. How does all that relate to wisdom? The way we looked at it last time, the way it was sort of half defined in book 4. How does holding on to that in all of the pleasures and pains we go through relate to the virtue of courage? How does being ordered within yourself for that singular purpose relate to the virtue of temperance? These are all questions that we had from our last reading. How does it all come together in justice? Lots of juicy, fat juicy questions. So we're learning a new way of being, which is interesting. A new way of expressing ourselves. Now, this new way of being we have been seeing isn't something that we force on others, but it's to do about setting the conditions, the preconditions. So if the sorts of things we look at that causes problems, being stuck within a certain way of being, violence, forcing our beliefs on others, forcing slavery, silencing questions. You don't ask questions in church, or you don't ask questions at Sunday school. Being lectured at. You don't do the talking at church. You sit there in silence and you be told what's true. Fascism. Formalized fascism. Spiritualized fascism. So if that's all things that we see cause harm, how do we create the causes for, or rather set the preconditions for, the opposite? In other words, how can we create the most ideal environment for self-reflection in your own words about what not what the priest says you should be worried about the gays. No, what are you worried about? Or even the monk. Here's a question to worry about. What is moo? I don't care about that. I'm caring about myself. What am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? And therefore, what should I be doing here? I have a mind. How far does it go? I have a self. What the hell is that? That has a mind, so does that mean that the self is higher than my mind? And I've had all these crazy experiences, ups and downs of feelings, but also insight. What's the greatest insight and feeling I can have? I want to know about that. But also, I'm super concerned about the puzzles that I have, the problems I have, my internal dialogue that craps on me all day, or sabotages me, the self-sabotage I'm recognizing I'm in. Self-fulfilling prophecies that are negative that I live through. I want to know about that. Not the Canaanites or the Samaritans or whatever that guy in the robe is telling me I should be cared about. Not the immigrants that racist fascist in the Parliament House tells me I should be worried about. Not even what is the sound of one hand clapping like that bald-headed guy in the robe is telling me I should think about. No, I don't need these things that are fake because I am automatically interested in self. And that interest in self awakens my self-reflection, or ousia. And that happens through logos, self-logos. That's the first, second, and third hypothesis of Parmenides. The three hypotheses or levels of being or levels of evolution or spiritual levels above the fourth, which is groupthink, the pathologos. The first is the self. The second is ousia, mind itself. The capacity for mind to turn about and know itself, self-reflection. And the third is logos, language, reason, intelligibility, dialectic, through which we gain the providence or care to participate in that reflection on mind to awaken a knowledge of self. That's where we're going. And so our question is, how do we do the opposite of fascism and create the most ideal conditions for that reflection, for that growth? Giving people the space, not the space to be racists, but the space to reflect. Encouraging that reflection, not reflection in a way to confirm your own opinions like debate or yelling at people. No. Guided, skillfully guided reflection to actually understand the causes of things. Putting words on what's most interesting, not words like racist slurs, which is a way of being you were taught at some level from childhood. No. A new vocabulary, the self-logos. So you can put it together, understand it, and test it out in your own experience. Not belief, not faith. You have to actually understand it for you, see it for yourself. And confirm it. Not when you're dead and maybe you'll get to go to heaven. No, fuck that. See it now. Test it. Experience what it's like to be free. Experience insight. Experience the highest levels of self and reality. The highest experiences of consciousness. The highest, most loving kind of relationships. So our question is, what would be the ideal conditions for those ideal things? Is that what we've been looking at in these two case studies? A midwife setting up the most ideal conditions, least amount of blame and punishment, or therefore least amount of fear of saying the wrong word because some fascist is gonna, or now I get to punish you like my daddy punished me. Fuck that cycle of ignorance. None of that. Most amount of time. Have we seen that these two talks have been going on for 2 years? Have we seen that the midwife isn't putting words on, but is encouraging them to put words on their reflection? Not just any reflection, the midwife is guiding their reflection with patience, maybe a bit of charm sprinkled in there if you're lucky, a bit of grace if you're a lady. Grace and charm is the same thing, but charm is normally attributed to men, and grace is all of those great virtues put together along with a dash of humor and fun for women. Kind of nice. Be around. Makes these talks fun. Makes these talks even more, I don't know, you're even more excited about participating in. You get to be around these sorts of people. Even more inviting as a new way of being for the people perhaps leaving the old negative ways of being, the racist, the Nazis, the MAGA, the belief-based ways of being, faith-based ways of thinking, to awaken a higher, more fun with these sorts of people around. Therefore, is this way of being that creates the most ideal conditions for the most ideal way of functioning for a human being. Is that philosophical midwifery? Is that what we're learning? Is that what we're seeing? And is the stakes, that cognitive jump, the jump from this level of the divided line On the left, the visible realm, beliefs that cause our image thinking that just ends up confirming our beliefs. Crossing this line here, from beliefs and ignorance, 2 and 1, to understanding, 3, and confirming it in nous, which are awakening an experience of the intelligible realm, the realm of knowledge, clarity, and truth, which is itself a doorway into a higher question: what is the self? Is it the crossing of this line that is why it's worth talking about it for 2 years? Hey, not just 2 years. I've seen people in this game for 60 years. Crossing this line, is it worth it? And because it's so worth it in terms of evolution, in terms of saving our species from annihilation and extinction, in terms of awakening up our intelligibility, becoming intelligent creatures from the barbarians, the zombie-like barbarians with that psychic parasite of the pathologos causing you to repeat the same negative language: eat brains, same negative functions, kill people and eat their brains. Is it worth, therefore, learning a new way of being? To go from zombies to good people, human beings? Evolutionarily, spiritually, in terms of learning, and for our species, and therefore our purpose? And therefore, could it be a single way of being to unify our whole soul around? And our whole species around? Crossing this line from image thinking and beliefs into dianoia understanding and nous knowing, and then awakening this question. So, helpful insights about what it is that we're doing, using the divided line, using our reading of the virtues, and also having a nice picture, as well as asking that question: well, what is a new way of being that we need to offer to ourselves, our loved ones, and the world, allowing for the development of those virtues and allowing for the development of the movement across this divided line? So, we're not just reading a boring old case study for no reason. We are learning it for all of these reasons, which can come together into the one single reason, whether you call that justice or wisdom or truth or the meaning of life. The reason we're here in time, forced to pick up a false belief from childhood, live out the implications in our ignorance, in our projection, in our image thinking, until we awaken, we realize there is something new on the table, because there are awesome people like us in this chat, in this community, who are saying, hey, there's a new way of being. You can actually get out of your problems. Notice we're still fighting Nazis. Notice your dad had the same problems his dad had, and you have, and your brother has, blah, 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 the same bullshit over and over again. Well, you know what? There's a new game in town. It's the noblest game in town. And really, if you think about it, it's the only real game in town. Crossing this line. The love of dianoia. Philodianoia. Philosophical midwifery is the use of... My board is a bit stuck. Forcing me to drink some coffee while the lag catches up to my board. There we go. This dianoia that we confirm in our experience, that we understand this experience. Number 2, go into it, maintain it. Remember, one of the ways of not reaching your goals is not maintaining it. And 3, go beyond, but also 4, turning back and creating the ideal, conditions by demonstrating and functioning through this way of being to help others make this journey too. So, the 4 uses of dianoia. Defining this art, the single art, philodianoia, which we can take as a question or take as a possible hypothesis back to our other questions. Is philodianoia justice? Is it wisdom? Is it courage? Is it temperance? Is it any of the virtues? We've seen how it relates to the cognitive functions of understanding, dianoia, nous, knowledge, beliefs, and image thinking or ignorance. How does philodianoia, the love of understanding, relate to the virtue? So let's take that awareness of that, the significance of this way of being and these questions about the virtues back with us into our reading of the second case study of somebody who's been in the game for a couple of years. So good job to the midwife who's created the conditions for this person to reflect in this most meaningful and beneficial way for 2 whole years. That's a lot of coffee. That's a lot of coffee.
Talking about a bunch of slop.
A lot of coffee. But we have a lot of podcasts too. So I think we're on like 90 for this midwifery series. Feel free to join on Twitch and YouTube and join the Discord if you want a notification when we go live. And I think I forgot to do that today. So I will throw that on the Discord and we will take a minute and then we're going to jump into our reading with all of these puzzles and questions and hypotheses in our inventory sacks, in our back pocket as we go. Because
you're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry, and
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Drunk Gandalf is looking for someone to share in an adventure. So here we are. And I see on the screen we have the end of book 4. Seeing as it's on the screen, we might as well read it one more time. Part where he defines the questions that we had. Here we go. 443D. So if you want to get a tattoo on your shoulder, not on your, man, if you, some people put tattoos on their face. I don't know if I think that that's a good idea. But if you do want to get a tattoo, one option is 443D. The Stephanus number for the part in the Republic where Socrates gives a kind of definition of the very thing that the book is about, justice and also wisdom. We're gonna tattoo 443 on your shoulder. And if you're like, that sounds great, but I also want some picture, and you want it to be a picture of my face. Yep, I'll do it. Here we go. There we go. To have a picture of my face, then you're welcome for that, and have 443D, which reads, the truth of it is this, that justice indeed resembles something like this, but not in regards to doing of the works of self externally, but in regards to that which is internal, within, in the true way, in regards to itself, and to those matters that are of itself in self. So, what is justice? It's not an external thing, it's internal in the true way, regards to itself, the works that are of self and in self. They must not allow any class in the soul to do the work belonging to any other, nor engage in many businesses with each other, not a lot of different things. It's not doing something that isn't your purpose or function. It's not doing lots of things either. But truly setting its own home in order, and by self-ruling self. Interesting. Justice is a ruling of self, while adorning and becoming a friend, philos, true friend and lover, a friend to itself, by tuning the three beings of the soul in the most simple manner as three harmonic rules: the lowest, the highest, and the middle. Desire, honor seeking or outward, desire, inward, outward or honor seeking, and thinking, reasoning, and all others if they happen to be between them, having bound together all these terms, and out of many having been made perfectly one. Justice is internal, of itself, about itself, in itself, ruling itself, a friend to itself, tuning itself, making it perfectly one, sound and in tune. And in this way, self immediately knows what must be done, if anything is to be done, whether in the acquisition of wealth, or concerning the care of your body, or in any public or private contracts. And in all of these cases, being led to see and define the actions that are just and beautiful are those which preserve and bring to completion this state of being. This new state of being. This different state of being that we have to get rid of the old one for and learn this new one. A state of being in self, of self, about self, being a true friend and lover of self, unifying, not doing any other things that are not your purpose, and not mixing up your purpose with other things or doing lots of different things, but one thing, perfectly one, in tune, within yourself, of yourself. And if you do that, you will immediately know what must be done. In anything, making money, looking after your body, public contracts, relationships, or private contracts, but relationships. That's justice. Being led to see and define the actions that are just actions and beautiful actions are the ones that preserve that state of being, that new state of being we've been talking about, and also bring it to completion. You can finish it. You can master the art. Not just the art, the state of being. The disposition or state of being. The knowledge that presides over this leading to see and define in relation to justice and beauty, that which preserves and brings into completion this new way of being and state of mind. That knowledge that presides over that, wisdom. There's our wisdom. back sore. A fucking terrible mattress. Anyway, let's keep going. That's wisdom. But also seeing, defining any actions that are unjust and ugly, we would say, which dissolve that disposition. The opinions, doxa, that reside over that is ignorance. So, being able to see and define what brings into, according to justice and beauty, that state of being where you immediately know what has to be done in anything because you are doing your single purpose and unified within yourself in that way. And also seeing and defining anything that takes you out of that excellence of self, functioning in your most self-ideal way, doing your highest self-functioning, being able to see and define the ignorance of that and what causes it, that's wisdom. Okay, so with that in mind, let's jump into the other text that we're reading. We jump back into the case studies. I'm gonna have to adjust my chair. My back's getting too sore. Let me just take. Oop, I've been paused this whole time. Jesus. Okay. Sorry for the YouTube recording. I've just been reading the beginning of this. 2 years he's been doing it. He has a block to his writing goals. He notices when he's been writing the stories, but when he becomes involved, he loves it. But then he gets into a dialogue with himself saying, don't do what you want to do what you have to do. What other people want you to do for money. He gets headaches a lot. He describes a fantasy that not doing what he wants to do in his midwife talk. And then he reports that headaches restrict his functioning, not what he has to do, what he wants to do. And he talks about getting headaches when he comes home from a good class, which restricts his love making, which he wants to do, I would assume. The have-tos keep me where I'm at. Oh, and then the midwife reminds him, hang on a second. Do you see any relationship between the headache state and the fantasy? The fantasy being the conversation with him, him walking out of the midwife talk without saying what he wants to talk about. He doesn't, but then the midwife reminds him, hey, remember, the headaches come when it's something you want to do? The implication being he wants to do midwifery. And we recognize that in one of the stages in the dialectic, where if somebody has reached a certain level of sophistication within midwifery, you can point out the very problem that they're exploring will play out in the midwife talk and is being played out in the midwife talk, so long as they consider midwifery important or the midwife a significant person in their life. So what's happening here? The have-tos, so then we remind him, hey, by the way, have-tos versus want-tos. He was then asked how similar that was to the statement of fantasy. He made several comparisons concluding, the have-tos keep me where I'm at, but the want-tos, if I could do that, that would be fantastic. Keeps him where he's at, stagnant. He becomes terrified when waking up with the headache because he knows his whole day is ruined. Even though the headache may last all day, it does not interfere with the have-tos, but he knows it will prevent him from concentrating on what he wants. And when he is asked to reflect on his inability to concentrate on that, he reports, I want to cry because I can't keep my mind on it. He recognizes that state of mind as one familiar to him since childhood.
What feminists want is to specifically ruin your life.
I need to play some sound drops because I was eating some cookie. So, familiar since childhood, significant, right? Today we're talking about projections, how they must come from our past. If they're not in the present, they can't be the future. So where do we first learn what reality was? Or what's going to happen in significant moments? Childhood. When directed to reflect on a time where it was particularly intense, he recollects an episode with his father where he received, which he has reviewed in a previous talk. He recalls that his father had brought a lawnmower. It was a weird brand and it broke down soon after being purchased. Subject B went on to describe how he took it apart, saw how it worked, identified the broken part. And his dad located the part shop some 50 miles away where they could get the needed part. They journeyed together, got the part, and when he returned home, Subject B put it together exquisitely. So we can already see some themes. Remember how in dream analysis you take the particulars and you rise to the level of meaning? What are the themes? Which is also analogy. Because you can apply the theme analogously to another thing. So, putting a lawnmower together exquisitely, beautifully. If we rise to the level of meaning, what would that be? Seeing the pieces, seeing how they fit, putting it together with excellence according to beauty. Could that also relate to the problem he's facing writing his book, where things are getting complicated? He loves it, but does he have to see how the parts of the book come together? See the parts, put them together beautifully. Analogy. He recalls that the lawnmower ran perfectly until the governor kicked out and blew it up. His father said simply, "You don't know how to work on the small things." When asked to consider and judge his father's remark, he said, "I think it was bullshit, but I think I believed him." Why? Isn't it true? He was asked by the midwife. So we're not telling him, hey, it's nonsense. We're not giving advice. It's not a gossip session. It's, oh, what do you think? You judge it. You put the words on. You reflect on yourself. You learn to think for yourself. You put your own home in order. You arrange your soul according to the reasoning part of your soul. You see and define things according to truth and beauty and justice. So are we creating the conditions for the development of virtues? What do you think? Isn't it true? And then he was asked to explore what test he could be applied to determine whether he knows how to work on small things or not. Test, experience, not faith, not belief. He responds that while he knows he passed the test, it was tough to believe it. Interesting. So we are seeing that divide between belief and knowledge. They're two different things. Yeah, he knows he passed the test. He tested it in experience and validated this hypothesis that he can work on small things. His beliefs are different. So whenever anybody says, well, I believe, he'll say, hey, stop you there, buddy. But I believe. No, but I don't care. beliefs, as we see here, can be in direct opposition to knowledge. He knows it's not true, he believes it is true. Or, yeah. So whenever a politician says, I believe, we'll say, no, listen here, fucker, no belief. Knowledge. You can believe something else, but act on what's true if you're a racist. And every human being has pathologos. Every doctor has a problem, but we expect them never to act on their beliefs. I don't care if you're Muslim or Christian or whatever. Use the medical textbook every time. Why? Because it's understanding and verified, tested, and experienced. Whenever the doctor says, well, I'm not performing on you because I have a Christian belief that you should suffer because Jesus suffered, like Mother Teresa or whoever it was who thought that way. No, you're a monster. Or in America right now, you don't get medical care when you're giving birth to children because I believe women are the cause of sin and I want to see you suffer. Fuck you. That's a belief. It's wrong. It's got nothing to do with medicine, which is about understanding and knowledge. It's so important for human beings to recognize there are different cognitive functions that relate to different things and participate at different levels of truth and clarity, the divided line. You can have false beliefs. Knowledge isn't false. And here we see that is also true within the individual. Ask anyone. What's some belief you grew up with? Well, I grew up a Mormon, so I was told I believe this. What do you think? I think it's bullshit. But I still believe it. Yeah. No joke. That's what a belief is. Important? He knows he passed the test, but it was tough to believe. He said he knew it was a poorly designed lawnmower, but he never believed it. So you have both sides. He knows it was a poorly designed lawnmower, but he believed it was good. He knows he is good at small things, but he believes he's bad. It could go either way. You know something to be good, believe it to be bad. You know something to be bad, you believe it to be good. Which is why Trump has gone for the Christians. They know taking away children's lunches is bad. They know taking away healthcare is bad. They know taking away any taxation of the beggar wealthy is bad, while taxing the poor people is bad. They know dropping bombs on Palestinian children is bad. They know Trump, with all his affiliations to Epstein and the Russian mob and never paying his workers and lies like every sentence, they know he's bad. They also believe him to be good. And if you grew up in a culture like the Christians do, where belief is the saving thing, religion means to be bound by a saving belief. That's what the word means. So anyone who says, well, I think you can have understanding in religion. No, you idiot. That's not what it is. It's not its definition. Religios, to be bound by a saving belief. That's what the word means. You can't not believe in Jesus saving your soul and still be a Christian. You can't do that. So if, again, Emperor Justinian was the one who shut down the academy when we were learning how to understand and replaced it with tyranny based on, hey, understanding that solves problems? No, it's bad, actually. And you know how belief causes problems? No, it's good, actually. He flipped it. Causing the Dark Ages, causing a fucking terrible period of history in every sense. That's what we're climbing out of. The flip. And we see it here within the individual soul, within our souls. We can know that our friends like us, but believe they don't. We can know that I only get 1 or 2 chatters on my streams, but believe that I am more popular than Hassan and Asmongold combined. I believe it in my heart. Urgh. I like World of Warcraft. Isn't that what that guy was all about? World of Warcraft? And I like progressive ideas. I'm like, if Hassan and Asmongold came together and had a mega baby, a super baby, like the new Spider-Man movie. I haven't seen it. I assume it's where Superman and Mega Man come together and have an ultra baby. That's me. Therefore, 100,000 views on every Twitch stream. #1 streamer. Ichiban. Yatta. Psycho. Ichiban streamer. #1. Beliefs. Aren't they funny? He continues to work on mechanical things and says he feels extremely accomplished when he can do something that is mechanical and precise. When asked how he understands what he's doing, he says, "I'm trying to prove him wrong, actually." He was then asked to review the lawnmower scene to see if he could prove his father wrong. So, we're going back to the scene where he accepted a false belief that he knows is wrong, and we are creating the ideal conditions for self-reflection with seeing and defining according to truth, beauty, and justice, to see whether he could see within that scene enough proof of that false belief being wrong. And what's the tool? What's the tool that can... He knows something, but belief and knowledge are disjointed. What's the word that we are focusing on that can bridge the gap? Take you from false belief to actually trusting knowledge. What does the midwife ask? We got what you believe, we got what you know. Can we play a game of self-reflection with words in the most ideal condition, demonstrating the most ideal way of being, where you can add understanding?
That's weird that you think that.
It's weird that you think that, but if you have understanding, Philadelphia, the way of being is love of understanding. Are we providing the ideal conditions for the development, for the birth of understanding? Is that worth doing? Is it worth doing when? In public contracts? In relationships? Is understanding worth doing when it comes to money? When it comes to care of your body? Is it worth doing at all times? Wherever you find yourself? Can we unify? Is it worth desiring? What happened? Oops. Is it worth seeking outwardly? Let's keep going. Can you review that scene that you weren't able to review in the time because you weren't given the ideal conditions for reflections and questions and words and understanding? Can you actually review it again now and understand? And see whether you can prove your father wrong? He recalls that he took it apart, saw what was wrong, understood how the damaged part functioned, explained it to his father, and that after they drove 50 miles on his information to get new parts, the shop owner brought the part to him to verify, not his father. He felt the trip with his father was a high because its success depended upon himself. Then, having repaired the machine, it appeared better than it was before, since, as he said, he painted every part exquisitely. And it worked perfectly. It started with one pull. He recognizes his father's involvement in many of the stages, but not during the final testing. He concludes his father was wrong. Hey, father, this is what I think of you. And your judgment on me. And therefore the role that you're offering me as a mark of love within the family, because I love you and you love me, supposedly. Father was wrong. He was reminded by the midwife that they both knew who was wrong, and he replies, when you said that, you know what hit me? I knew when we first started, so I think he's saying this to the midwife. You know what hit me? I knew when we first started to try to find parts, there was a problem in the basic design of that machine. And then he adds that they both knew it was poorly designed. A poorly designed lawnmower. A weird one.
We're gonna engage in whore. I can't walk. It's that disgusting. Is this chat whore much? Too stupid to under. If you don't understand this, you are fantastic. Don't be disgusting. That's weird that you think that.
Got it. Weird. That's a sound drop that says weird. I think this randomized soundboard is not a good idea. Because I want to find specific ones sometimes. Anyway. They both knew it was a weird one, but it was purchased because it was a good deal.
I'm too pure.
It was pointed out that no praise was mentioned for his work. Reflecting on their relationship, he observes that his father never gave praise, but often ridiculed him. His father tried to take credit at the parts store. When he first started the lawnmower, it went backwards because he installed one part backwards. His dad fell down laughing at it. He sounded like this. He concludes that when he was being ridiculed, that's the most emotion I got out of my dad. Ooh, significant. So, significant why? Well, we talked about one of the things we're doing here is learning a new way of being that we get when we sacrifice the old one and we offer to others who are stuck in their old ones. A new way of being where you can show yourself. So the maxim of the ancient Greeks is to know thyself, but we can add, hey, know thyself and show thyself. How do you get to know yourself if you're not engaged in this reflection? You're not putting words on it. You're not okay with missing the mark. You're not okay with making the mistakes. You're not okay with seeking your highest goals because knowing thyself is your highest goal. Can you ever get there if you don't reach your highest goals? You're not seeking your highest goals? Know yourself and show yourself. And when you get there, do you want to share it with others? Do you want to turn around and help others through this process? So here's a rare moment in which his father was saying, this is how we show ourselves in the family. So when Trump says, hey, you get to be racist, you get to be ignorant and cruel and racist and terrible, and doesn't matter what you've done, I've done all of the bad things. Think of all the bad things you've done, I've done them worse. But I get to be president, I get to share my opinions, and not only that, all my opinions get made into laws. And if that means that all the children starve, or all the Palestinian children are murdered, all healthcare is taken away. I get all the money. You all have to suffer. I never have to, whatever, address my problems. That means you can show yourself in a similar way. We need a new way of being. It's one thing to point at capitalism and say how it's terrible, how it's just fascism, or creates the condition for literal tyrants and fascism. And then the debates that support it. People yelling opinions at each other. So Trump's opinions are just as equal as Einstein's opinions. But it's another thing to say, hey, here's a new way of being. This is the alternative. Here's a way of knowing yourself and showing yourself. Now, here is his father teaching him a way of showing himself. When did he get emotion out of his father? When he was being ridiculed. How common is that? When do MAGA show themselves? When they're abusing and ridiculing the left or the blacks or the immigrants or the poors? Even when a lot of them are immigrants themselves or poor themselves. Doesn't matter. You can beat yourself up, sure, and feel strong about it. Why not? Sadomasochism, right? There's the sadism inflicting it on others, but also do people seek situations or relationships where they get taken advantage of or abused in a certain kind of way? Is that interesting? Not good, but is it interesting? Curious? Do we get puzzles from that? It's the most emotion I got out of my papa. But he knew what it was and he fixed it in about 5 minutes. And it worked perfectly. However, when he had further success, his father was not around then. Out getting the milk and the cigarettes, maybe. However, when he had, read that. When he was asked to reflect on the curious fact that when we believe something contrary to fact, there must be something important going on. He responds, what the hell was going on? He responds,
Call a crackhead.
call a crackhead. He responds,
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
disgusting. He's so disgusted. And he also says,
Freaks.
freaks. That was a good one. What the hell's going on? Nevertheless, reviewing and seeing the evidence once more, he says simply, I still believe it. Belief. See? Belief, remember? Belief? On that side of on the divided line? The cause of our images and shadows and projections? The cause of our obscurity? The cause of opinion thinking? The visible realm? Blocking us from our development? Beliefs. See how crappy beliefs are? Isn't it insane that we say, well, I believe that this president should be, or this candidate? Who gives a shit about beliefs? Beliefs are bad. No, but I love yeah, you love your beliefs, sure. But also, racists love being racist. They love their beliefs. Animal abusers love kicking puppies. Just because you love it doesn't mean it's right, or true, or clear, or knowable. So why the fuck is our politics based on belief? Why is religion based on belief? Why do we end up believing people who treat us like in that scene that becomes the belief that causes the way of thinking in our whole lives chains us to our problems, chains us to our repeating cycles of injustice towards ourselves and anyone else if we get into a position of authority, only to confirm that stupid belief to begin with. Why is belief so powerful when it's so goddamn bad? Isn't that fascinating? Isn't that fascinating? Where do we get this allegiance to belief from? Yeah, Nazis were aligned to their belief. That wasn't just some Germans, it was the whole German people. Or enough to make it the whole. How can the people believe something so terrible? So objectively false through understanding, so testably false through knowledge. If we want to defeat the Nazis, that's the question we have to ask. How the heck can belief bind this guy's life even though he knows he can work on small things? Even though, well, he's going through a process of understanding now. See why this is the spiritual task? It's not about believing Buddhism or believing Taoism or believing Hinduism or believing whatever the hellism. No, it's about getting rid of beliefs. There's even a story for that in Buddhism. Hey, Buddhism is a raft that you use to cross a river. Once you've crossed the river, you don't pick up the raft and put it on your back. You don't say, I am a Buddhist if you've crossed the river already. Pointing to the fact it's not a belief system. At best, now if there was logos, this would be true, but ideally, it's a methodology to do something, not a belief you become identified with. That's the whole game. That's the Satori or whatever. Thumbs up. It's dropping the illusion of self or of the individual, of the personal self, and realizing that the true self is intrapersonal. It's beyond just your physical body and your beliefs. It's beyond, literally, it's beyond the beliefs you have about yourself. It's beyond your Facebook profile or your LinkedIn CV. That's not you. It's not a belief. How many wars were started over allegiance to belief? All of them? How many wars were fought over understanding and knowledge? 0? Because you can't fight a war over that because it's just understanding. You either see it or you don't. And if you don't, there are these wonderful people who enjoy helping and they'll help you teach you. Sometimes they need food in the house so that, you need to be paid some money, but they're not being paid because of what they do. What they do is because to benefit. The money is a separate thing. Doctor isn't paid for how many drugs he prescribes. If he does, he goes to prison. But he still needs a house and food and stuff. So that's a secondary thing. How many doctors are shooting Palestinian children right now? 0. How many doctors are being shot in the head while they try and help crying, suffering, dying Palestinian children by people who believe Netanyahu's bullshit? Lots of doctors, which is a war crime, by the way. See? It's beliefs. Therefore, a way of being that creates the conditions for the removal of false beliefs through the development of understanding to reach knowledge, or to live your life based on what you know to ultimately know and show the self, is what's needed and what we're here for. The question is, when? How many podcasts do I have to? How long is it going to take before I have 50,000 of Asmongold's viewers? He can keep, how much does he get on average? Get like 100,000 or something? All right. I'll have 90,000 of his. No, I'll have 98,000. He can keep 2,000 weirdos. They can stay. So Asmongold keeps 2,000 viewers. What does Hassan get? Like 75,000? Hassan can keep 1,000 of his viewers that are probably perverts anyway. And I will have 74,000 of his viewers. That means I get 172,000 viewers on Twitch. I think that's fair. So everyone, write an email to the CEO of Twitch and say, we've done the math. Even though you believe that this shouldn't be true, and it makes no sense to say that this streamer can demand 172,000 viewers, we have an understanding based on mathematics that says this is what he should be getting. Because he also needs a house to live in. And money for a coffee. And also, he likes cookies when he streams. It's a cookie. It's a quarter of a cookie. Doesn't matter if you don't believe it. 172,000. Speaking of coffee. All right. So, when the midwife points this out to him, like we just pointed out to ourselves, that if we believe something contrary to the fact, there must be something weird going on. Something that makes us say,
Don't be disgusting.
Don't be disgusting. Because
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
Because Emma's a cutie pie, apparently. According to herself. So, what the hell's going on? Says him. Because believing something contrary to fact. Nevertheless, reviewing the evidence once more, still, he says, I still believe it. Pausing, he reflects on the project that they worked on together and says they all seem to have the other projects they worked on together. They all have flaws. So this is a running gag within the family, a running scam. How many times has Trump scammed everyone? Like more than 100 and how many viewers? Oh, math's gone. More than 172,000 times. I saw some statistic on something. He lied like 30,000 or 300,000 times in his first presidency, first term. It's a lot. The more he does it, it's not changing. Well, actually, now we are seeing something interesting. He came to an insight that this wasn't a one-off. Yes, he has seen the evidence. He still believes it. He still believes what's false. Yes, Christians have seen the evidence of dinosaurs. They still believe what's false. Trumpers see the evidence. They still believe what's false. Isn't belief interesting? Isn't it weird that we are a species that does this? And insists on our false beliefs. Even in those cruel ways. Animals don't do this. Isn't it interesting that we're here to examine the cognitive functions, especially belief and understanding? So, but he has come to an insight. That's good. Yay for an insight that all of the projects had a flaw. Let's see where that takes him. Where we are, I'm going to take a quick break to top up my coffee, and we're going to see where he goes from here. And maybe we have some extra benefits from the divided line, from our reflection on how it plays out within society, looking at Trump and religious people and so on, and the virtues from book 4. And by the way, if you're triggered, I don't mean your family views. I mean the next door neighbors and everyone else on your street and everyone else in your block. Of course, their beliefs are crazy. Have you ever gone to their house? They're nuts over there, but not your family. And I don't mean your parents. Your mummy and dad were saints and knew everything. I mean the next door neighbors and the guy across the street and everyone on your block and in your town and in your city and in your state and in the world. It's not yours. And same thing with religion. I mean the crazy religion of the guy up the street and over in another country and all the other religions that have died out. They're nuts. I mean, they are beliefs that therefore have nothing to do with truth, because beliefs aren't about truth. There can be some beliefs that's the meaner, right? You can have some right opinions from people who know. Temporarily, they won't always work because you can't nail them down. Generally speaking, beliefs have nothing to do with truth, and are in direct opposition to truth when it's most significant to us as human beings, forcing us to look at the nature of beliefs, because human problems are caused by beliefs. And as Einstein said, you can't solve problems with the same way of thinking that caused them. You can't vote out Nazism. You can't belief-based problems caused on beliefs. Why? Because you can vote in Nazism, and you haven't understood the cause of Nazism. Understanding solves problems. So we need a new way of being that creates the most ideal conditions for understanding. That's what we're doing here, and that's what we're going to do when I have my coffee. I'll be right back. Here we are. We're going through a case study of this dude with the lawnmower who has been blocked from his goal of being an author, and he's reviewing a past scene. So as he's writing his book's getting complicated, but he likes it, but he starts getting headaches, and he has this inner dialogue that he calls a fantasy, where he starts talking to himself saying, hey, don't write a book, do something for money. Do something you have to do, not something you want to do, right when the book's getting complicated. So he's blocked from doing what he wants to do in his life. In lots of ways, in his headaches, in his inner dialogue. And so in his midwifery relationship, he's been reviewing this scene for 2 years, and he's just come to an insight. First of all, he's realized, hang on a second, my dad told me I can't work on small things, but I know that's not true, but I believe it is true. I believe that statement of my father about my inability to work on complicated things. I believe it to be good, even though I know it's bad. And he also saw that there's two things he saw. He saw something that was bad. He knows it to be bad, but he believes it to be good. Oh, here, the lawnmower. He believed the lawnmower was good when he knew it was bad. Right, and his father's statement, you can't work on good things, he knows is bad. It's a bad statement, it's not true, but he believes it to be good. A belief that he has carried his whole life, preventing him as a 35-year-old from doing things he wants to do, working on his book, making love to his wife.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
I know, these days. So we are wondering about how can beliefs be so significant in our world and in our soul, considering they have nothing to do with truth, and in fact, they can be the exact opposite of what we know to be true. Controlling our whole goddamn lives. Wow. Why are beliefs so significant? So when asked about this, the midwife says, isn't it interesting? When we believe something contrary to fact, there must be something important going on. And he responds, what the hell is going on? He says,
Hi.
and he also says,
Keep that little smug.
keep that a little smug. Because what the hell is going on?
Do a poggers.
Why can't he do a poggers like Emma tells us to do? Reviewing the evidence once more of the scene with the lawnmower, he says, I still believe it. Pausing, he reflects on the projects he had worked on with his father and says they all seem to have a flaw. He's just had a new insight after 2 years of reflection. So, we have breakfast every morning. What would happen if we had this kind of reflection every morning? Would it take less than 2 years to have that significant insight about one of these fundamental causes to the problems we live out every single day? In what we do, in how we talk to ourselves, how we think, and also our physical illnesses. He gets headaches. What kind of relationship would that be where we get to reflect on the source of our problems, the beliefs we carry, every morning over breakfast? Can we move faster? Can we become free quicker? Can we reach the knowing and showing of self that we're here to do? Moving like a thief, as Socrates says in one of his books. When asked about his relationship with his father, so this is us doing some asking, let's highlight that in green, because we're learning not only what it takes to go through this process and the significance of our species, but we're also learning how to facilitate this. This is the way of being. How do we facilitate this reflection? We ask about his relationship with his father during the lawnmower episode. He says, it was warm, full, it's rare. So we are allowing him to put words on his experience. How often do people get to put words on their experience? Almost zero? Oh, you can join MAGA and you can put lots of words on your experience, so long as they're racist words. That's the appeal. But we also, what do the left say? They say, shut the fuck up. I don't care if your rent's unaffordable. I don't care if food's unaffordable. Shut up. Says the Democrats or fascism light. MAGA, they get to speak. They don't get heard by anyone of a significance, and the words are terrible, but they get to speak. So we are learning a new way of being that encourages self-reflection with words in the best possible way. We're learning the new model of being, the new paradigm. And he says, warm, full, rare. Exploring the sequence of the lawnmower blowing up, he is asked, we asked him, do I have a better green? That's kind of blue, isn't it? I want a better green. That's a nicer green. Let's use that. He is asked what other judgment his father could have made, and he responds, it looks like he could have come out and said, well, I guess it's a weird machine. Yeah, he could have. questioning his authority figure. Not allowed in Christianity, not allowed in Judaism, not allowed in Buddhism, not allowed in any religion-based thing, not allowed in the MAGA movement, not allowed in the Nazi movement. You are not allowed to question the authority of dear leader in any tool of oppression or belief, because beliefs are believing someone else. Can you reach a higher enlightenment state than Buddha? No. Heresy. Get out. Can you have a different way of thinking than Jesus? Heathen. Get out. Can you question the authority of Trump? No. Concentration camp for you in Florida, or El Salvador, or Guantanamo Bay. Savagery, stupidity, barbarism, ignorance. We are creating the conditions where you aren't genocided for asking, for questioning ignorance, for questioning false beliefs that have been causing problems. And we need to make a law that you should never, because that's fucking stupid. Come on. But we're learning a way of being that best encourages this reflection on what's most meaningful in words, including challenging. Hey, what you could have done, instead of laughing at me and said I can't do stuff I could do, you could have said, hey, it's a weird machine. He sees his father has two alternatives. He could have said either, I blew it, or you blew it. Recognizing that he has been taking the blame. Now we're getting down to the... Now we're getting down to the... Now we're getting down to the good stuff. Oh, well, the super significant stuff. He had been taking the blame. We take the blame when we don't question our earliest teachers, our earliest authority figures, our earliest images of knowers or loved ones. Subject B becomes aware that if I got the blame, that saved him. Saving our... Last time we asked people, somebody asked in the chat, hang on a second, if this way of being, philosophical midwifery, or philodianoia, solves problems, frees you from your suffering, allows you to be a kinder person, allows you to have a truly loving relationship, not have the dramas of ignorance that in most relationships, allow you to be a better parent and teacher and leader, allow you to be free to reach your highest, most significant goals, both in this lifetime and beyond, allows you to develop understanding now, which can awaken nous, which is the highest experience of beauty and bliss. Those all sound like the most positive things ever. What's the catch? Was the question in chat last time. What is the catch? Because they are literally the most beneficial and positives and wonderful, wonderful things. What's the catch? This. You can't save your loved ones from their bullshit by blaming yourself. That's not kind to them. It's fucking not kind to you, and it's not kind to our world. To lie, to save ignorance just because, not because they're the mummy and daddy of the guy next door, not because they're the mummy of the daddy of the guy across the street, or the guy in Norway, or the guy in Russia, or the guy in Turkey, because they're the ones you happen to be raised with. Why save them by lying? And it's not really saving them, is it? They stay in their ignorance. They get a kick out of crushing someone in the way they were crushed. They continue to act, and that badly, and they never wake up what they are here to do as well. What we are all here to do. But that's the catch. Saving beliefs. When people realize this, they're going to do this too. Can we make it how Christianity also is about the Logos? And can we make it how Christianity is about getting rid of beliefs and having understanding and knowledge, but keep some beliefs, like the belief that Jesus is the king and Jesus is God? And there'll be some people like, can we keep Hinduism? Because, you know, it's my national identity and we're very proud of our Hindu beliefs. And can we make it so that our belief-based figures can still be around, even though we recognize that beliefs is the cause of problems, and we can all participate in understanding? No one gets excluded, no one gets murdered, no one starves to death, everyone can play, it's having a good time. Can we keep a little bit of the bad time? Because I like my ones? That's what will happen. I don't know what to do when it does happen. Because you don't want to put people off learning this and saying, no, any belief is bad. Come on, understand, think, experience. No, belief is like the stupidest thing. It's like when a little kid learns, I don't know, to use scissors without cutting themselves. And they say, can I cut myself a little bit? No, cutting yourself hurts you. Taking the blame for false beliefs hurts you. Why are you wanting to save it? And even though that's true, they'll say, well, go away. I don't want to learn philosophy. I don't want to learn midwifery. I don't want to learn this new way of being. I like my beliefs. I get to go to church. I get to feel superior than the homeless people because they're not Christian or whatever. Whatever it is that they get out of it. I don't know how to deal with this inevitable aspect within society. The attempt to save the beliefs. I don't know. I've seen people say, well, actually, if you take the first sentence of John, the word logos is in there. Now, you have to get rid of the rest of it because he goes back into belief. Or, okay, there are these other gospels, the Gnostic gospels, that were buried by the evil church that killed everyone and murdered people and began the Dark Ages. And yeah, they only picked certain books, but there are all these other gospels, like the Gospel of Mary and the Gospel of Joseph. And in that, you can hear Jesus talking about the significance of removing beliefs and getting understanding. You can see it played out dramatically in Mark. But you have to ignore Paul because he's an evil person who murdered people and said, "Oh, believe me." Because Mark's not John and not Paul, and they're all different people, of course. You could save it that way. It kind of requires a bit of mental gymnastics, I suppose. As a transitional step, I don't know. Or maybe we can wonder about that while we continue to read and see how our midwife deals with this person realizing that if he takes the blame, because you always have to do it. You can't simultaneously believe you're a sinner and realize you are not a sinner. You're not bad. You're not evil. You're not a mistake. You are meaningful and valuable, and you've got work to do. The game to play. You can't have both. You can't believe understanding is the devil and awaken a love of understanding, which you're here for. Let's keep reading. He realized that if I got the blame, that saved him. The catch. Reflecting thoughtfully, he asks, why would I spend my life trying to prove him wrong? Why spend our life trying to save whatever belief we grew up with? Or religion we grew up with, or political with him? For his father knew all along it was a weird machine, and he tolerated it. And within this, his father was doing something in blue. His father knew all along it was a weird machine. It was
much? Whore. Too stupid to understand. Don't be disgusted. That's weird. Too stupid to understand. And
I went
also
past it.
refusing to understand.
Oh damn, sorry. The weird one. I need a bigger grid of buttons so I can hit the weird one whenever he says weird. Knew it was a weird thing and he tolerated it, and within this scene he showed himself. There we go. Knowing and showing yourself as a warm and caring father. So the opposite of our true goal to know and show ourselves is this. We talk about MAGA showing themselves through their racism. Finally he gets to show himself by knowing it was a weird machine, lying about it, setting his son up, so he can finally show himself as a warm and caring father. Has he done any work on removing his false beliefs through midwifery? No. Has he done any work on actually understanding what it would mean to be a warm and caring father? No. The son, for his part, also knew that the machine was flawed. The son also knew the machine was flawed, but to reveal it would be to run the risk of terminating that rare display of affection. Where's mine? That's the cost. When I start telling the truth, then this bullshit scene, warmness and care, affection in this way, that's what you lose. You gain everything, but you lose this. Idea of abuse and lies as fiction. Are you willing to make that trade? While recalling what his father had said, what did his father say? You don't know how to work on the small things, He knows it was necessary for his father to admit he made a mistake. So the kid knows it's necessary for his father to admit he made a mistake. After coming to that conclusion, B says quickly, I wouldn't have made a big deal out of it, since he got it so damn cheap. What did his father do to him when he made a mistake? Mocked him. Crushed his fucking soul. You can't work on small things. Oh, and this is what it means to be loving. What do you think he's going to do to his kids if this is his model of what it means to be affectionate and loving? What sort of jokes will he make with his friends? Jokes that destroy them? Hey, it's a show of affection to call your friend a son of a bitch or whatever. Really? What kind of relationship would he have with his wife? And so on, and so on. All of the divisions in his life. Whoops. He would have said, who gives a shit if you made a mistake, Dad? We had a lot of fun. But with further reflection, he realizes that for his father to acknowledge that, he would have had to admit his own mistake, and in so doing, preserve a new, mature way of relating. This new way of being we've been talking about, you're okay with making mistakes. That's what it means to be mature. Because we all make mistakes. That's why we're here. What's immature is saying, now it's an excuse to fucking crush you. Punishment, punitive justice, prisons, fines. This. Genocide, war, starving children to death. That's immaturity. Taking mistakes. Oh, but Hamas, therefore we get to murder all these children and starve them to death. Because Hamas. That's disgusting. Never, ever punish. Because we're here to see our mistakes, learn from them. If we didn't, we wouldn't be here. So a new way of being that would be mature and fun would come from his father acknowledging that he had made a mistake. So we talk about some people ask in this game, how do I prevent passing on pathologos to my children? You might not be able to. What you can do is preserve a new, more mature, because that might be why we're here as human beings. To get a fundamental false belief that screws up our entire life and can possibly end our whole species, causing countless suffering and war and genocide and capitalism and wealth inequality and people starving to death and so on and so on. Completely unnecessary. To point our soul to the significance of belief versus understanding and knowing. So it might be impossible, but what you can do is preserve a new, mature way of relating where you can, I made a mistake yesterday when I saw you having fun and I reacted in this irrational, immature way. I wonder why I did that. Reminds me of when I was your age and my dad, etc., etc. Here to learn a new way of being. Subject B says, that's the only way it's going to make anything worthwhile. Otherwise, he reasons, the whole thing there, that's going to be love.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
Iluma!
I find that very entertaining.
And who the hell wants that kind of love?
I'm too pure.
That's the whole thing there, he says. Who the hell wants that kind of love? So what are we learning? All you need is love? Love will save the day? Bullshit. Who the hell wants that kind of love? What are we learning is the new way of being. Understanding. The love of understanding. Not this love. The love of understanding. The care through understanding. The new way of being, of knowing and showing the self through understanding. Phila dianoia. Love and understanding together. It became clear that through this lawnmower event... How long do we have? A little bit to go. It became clear that through this lawnmower event, let's put that in it became clear to him that through this lawnmower event, he had what appeared to him meaningful relationship with his father. A meaningful. He remembers that they related as if they were equals, but, so let's put that in a different color because that's not what's happening. As if they were equals in a true relationship. But then he exclaims, he says,
Call a crackhead.
And then he says, the consequences of taking the blame. My whole being is something wrong with it. And adds, like I'm just a kid, no longer equal. How many false beliefs that have been the justification for or the preserving of war, conflict, inequality, slavery, capitalism, fascism, is based on the idea that some people are not equal and therefore can be slaves and therefore can be poor and therefore get 0 houses while we get 50 houses. They get 0 yachts and we get 60 yachts. They get no food, we get the best food and dump the rest of it in the ocean to make prices go up. Because they are unequal. The poor, the different colored skin, women, other races, other beliefs. What would be a truly loving relationship, therefore? What is something we can all equally share in? A love through understanding. It's just that simple. It's fun. You can do it over breakfast every morning. We read the most interesting books. We're able to solve problems that are otherwise not being solved out in the world. Love through, love of, love with understanding. Philodainoia. That's the game. It's the only game in town, really. Everything else is just showing us the consequences of taking the blame and accepting that you are not equal. You're a little kid. Can't work on anything you want to work on. You have to be a slave. Trying to recall the events once more, he remarks his father might have made the statement. What did his father say? You don't know how to work on small things, after he had taken the lawnmower apart. He says that would have been worse because it would be laid out and there it would be obvious proof. The obvious proof. This is also something we're learning about the pathologos class of belief in particular and beliefs themselves in general. Even when the obvious proof is laid out in front of you, it doesn't matter to beliefs. Beliefs are caused by something else. You have to believe you're not an equal to have to believe someone else instead of think for yourself, instead of experience for yourself, instead of know for yourself, instead of understand for yourself. Why? You're not good enough? You're not equal to Jesus? You're not equal to the Pope? You're not equal to Trump? You're not equal to Hitler? Who are you not equal to? Men? People with white skin? Bullshit. Now, we say that, and we have the facts laid out in front of us that everyone who says that shit are terrible, terrible human beings. Lying, and we have obvious proof, but we believe it anyway. That's why we still have sexism and racism and slavery and capitalism and exploitation and so on, and war. Even though we can lay the facts out bare, it does not affect our human being state of cognition. That's why, as a species, we're fucked. We are going to go extinct. There are many planets in the universe, and there are many species who have existed and will exist. We are not going to be one of them that lasts. Because when the facts are laid out in front of us, just like this scene, we do not believe the obvious truth. That's why we're fucked. That's why we are murdering and starving children right now. We do not believe the obvious truth. Until we understand why. Because understanding solves problems, and the biggest problem is this problem. Why don't we believe what's true? Why do we accept, oh, you can have religious beliefs, there's nothing wrong with that. You can have fascist beliefs, there's nothing wrong with that. Why do we believe even though we know that's not fucking true? As Einstein says, you can't believe your way out with another, you can't solve a problem caused by beliefs with more beliefs. You can't solve a problem caused by a certain way of thinking with that same way of thinking. We are screwed unless we recognize this fundamental cause of human problems, beliefs, nothing to do with proof, even when it's laid out. Understanding. And we understand what causes that belief if it's not proof. And we understand a new way of being to facilitate the understanding that can remove that false belief and free us to do what we're really here for, learn. How do you learn? It ain't through beliefs, my friend. It's through understanding. Until we realize that, we are doomed. As a soul, as a collective, and as a species. Understanding the difference between belief and understanding the power of beliefs, and understanding a specific class of belief that gets generated here, the pathologos, and understand a new way of being that can unite everyone, make everyone equal. That's philosophical midwifery. That's what we're here for, and them's there are the stakes. Your whole life, your whole idea of love based on this. And just as this guy says here, who the hell wants that kind of love? And who the hell would want in the universe this kind of species that loves this kind of cruelty and sadism? What kind of a species should be allowed to exist if they don't believe what is true and good and beautiful and just? Because they haven't awoken to the art of understanding and removing false beliefs to free ourselves from understanding and knowing truth, justice, beauty, clarity, so we can know and show the self. Through that way of being we call philodianoia. Love of, love with, and love through understanding. Thank you so much for joining me today. And next time we will jump in to see where this goes, because oh my goodness, we are surfacing some gold nuggets of wisdom and truth bombs. Tough to do at 9 a.m. in the morning. Practice it all day. It'll get easier. Thank you for joining me in chat. And thank you for joining me if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch later. You can follow on Twitch. You can like and subscribe on YouTube. If you join the Discord, you get a notification if you go live. When we go live, you can find a link to donate a coffee underneath somewhere. And I will see you in the next one. Here's a chicken. Bye-bye, says chicken. Bye.